You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
Terminó en Axel Schwarzenegger.
Va a pegarle Ronaldinho Gaucho. Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! 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 ¡Golazo!
This is Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio, your new live show about the beautiful game in all its glory, with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee. MLS, EPL, La Liga, Champions League, all is fair game. Powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us at sportspodcastingnetwork.com.
Man, welcome to Soccer Today. Sorry about yesterday, but stuff happens. We still got a post-game show out, the whole 9 yards. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing pretty good. I was able to talk by myself for 40 minutes straight. That took me like 3 hours to be able to have saliva again. But yeah, that was awesome.
Amazing. Yeah, talking to ourselves is what we do in this world sometimes. I sometimes just go in the street corners and just narrate. It's amazing.
You know what it reminds me of when I do a solo show? You know when you're having an argument with somebody, but imagine just your part. You're just talking to somebody. You're talking to someone, explaining your points, your opinions, but there's never anybody not agree with you when you're doing a solo show because you're solo. So yeah, that's the good part.
Exactly. At least as long as you don't start arguing with yourself, then maybe we might have a problem at that point.
Yes. Well, my doctor said it wouldn't happen again.
Okay, fair enough. Shut up, Duane. Shut up. No, I'm good. All right, guys, let's get into this. We want to start with talking about the Frank Yallop situation. He resigned yesterday. The club is saying it's for personal reasons so that he can hang out with his family more. But Kevin, is it just me, or does every time that mutual
agreed to part ways, the mutual agreement of parting ways? Yeah, no. What if you look on my Facebook feed yesterday? I shared the news, and I put in question mark DDA effect. Not saying that it's related, at all. And when Klopas situation last year with Montreal, 2 years ago, basically now. It's just the timing, right? And it raises questions. And I think it's more the Frank Yallop situation. He had a tough few years in the coaching, his coaching career, and lost a lot of jobs over the last decade, right? Montreal Impact, LA Galaxy, to San Jose Earthquakes, to Canadian's national team. So a lot of coaching experience and a lot of exertion over that decade, and that seems to be the reason. But the timing of it, and because of the new hype with Phoenix, with the MLS expansion, with the acquisition of the Drogba, Sean Wright Phillips, Omar Bravo, those players, it does bring more eyes to the club. And the timing of the resignation of Frank Yallop did raise some question. I do feel personally that I understand the decision, and who can blame anyone to be more with their family. But it does just raise question. I was just wondering if it's related, and I had many different opinions online. People saying it's related. People that we all know and fans of this show would know who I'm talking about too, that are more closely involved with the club, say no, it's close. The timing might be weird, but it is for Frank Yallop's reasons.
And let's hope so. I mean, look, if you looked on social media when it happened, the actual Phoenix defensive about it, people will be saying stuff like, did Drogba do this? And they were jumping in, which is weird when you see like a public, like a social media account responding to fan speculation. Like, no, this is for personal reasons. Like I watched it like 4 or 5 times play out there. It was kind of interesting to watch out in real time. But
maybe to put the kibosh to it too, right? Because you don't want social media can be difficult to handle, can be hard, can be mean, can be harsh, and you don't necessarily want this, especially for the time and what state is Frank Yallop in his decision too. So you want to protect the decision of a good man when you can.
Exactly. I mean, look, Frank Yallop, for those that don't know, that are newer to this, was at one point one of the most well-respected MLS managers out there. He was very successful. He's won MLS Cups. He managed probably one of the best teams of MLS 1.0 its era. So this is a guy that had a lot of great reputation. But in recent years, maybe there has been some speculation that the game or his tactics have passed the world by. I don't know. It's hard to exactly say that one way or the other, but nonetheless,
but let's not forget Frank Yallop's tenure with San Jose, the Goonies. Was his time. That was one of his claim to fame, one of the latest one, right? And it was a good run for San Jose for those 2 years, and great performances and great rise of players like Wando and all. And that was under Frank Yallop. And we have to think about the great things he did for our country as well, Duane, here, us in Canada. He coached for Canada's national team, Impact Montreal Impact as well, player and coach. And so, yeah, he had that reputation over the last few years. But before that, like you mentioned, he had a great pedigree. And if we're looking at some pedigree of coaches right now, maybe stones should not be thrown at Frank Yallop. We're looking at ULA. So maybe Frank Yallop should not be having a reputation of just the last 2 years, but looking at his career as a whole.
No, and his career has been wonderful. I mean, the Canadian men's national team situation didn't work out as well as people wanted, but I do recall at the time.
Well, Duane, for every coach, it never goes the way it's supposed to for Canada. Let's put that straight.
Yeah, well, it's been since 1986 anyway. Yeah, no, at the time there was a lot of people that were like clamoring to have him in the Canadian soccer. They wanted, the Canadian manager that was managing at the highest level, basically, that was doing the best at that level. They wanted him to come in. It didn't work out, and he resigned suddenly. But we kind of know what was going on behind the scenes, some of us now. So we will let that one slide. Dominic Kinnear, as well, we should point out, was really he was his mentor. So. Sort of Yallop was Kinnear's mentor is what I'm trying to say. So obviously he has that sort of impasse as well. If this is the end for what he's done, if he is, retiring to spend more time with his family and he's not going to get back into the coaching ranks again, I do think that at some point in the near future, we're going to look back and we're going to start to put his career in perspective. And I think when we do that, we could argue that maybe he was the most successful Canadian manager of all time. There might be
someone. There's no doubt. I think right now there's no doubt. I think there's a few coaches in MLS right now, maybe more Biello. That's maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, we'll have a pedigree comparable. But now it's Frank Yallop, probably as maybe this country's best manager ever.
Yeah, MDS I think is another guy that might eventually. Rise up.
He needs to get a first division job. I have to agree, but Frank Yallop right now, it's hard to argue against. Who else, right?
Exactly. No, it is. I mean, I'm in my head. I'm spinning it around. It's not a big list. Let's be clear, but he obviously, I think, is at the top of that. And part of that's because if there's Canadian coaches listening out there, they'll be yelling at their devices right now, saying it's because we don't get opportunities. But he did get the opportunity and he took full advantage of it. And for those that don't remember MLS 1.0. Again, this was a guy that was as respected as a Siggy Schmidt as anyone out there, right? So this is a guy that Bruce Arena, we should point him out there. He was talked about in the same level, at the same place as those. His career fell off, but still, I think we have to celebrate his career if this is in fact the end.
Yeah, exactly. And if for people who would like to believe that it's related to DDA because it's the second time we see this happen in North America, he comes in, it's a totally different situation than it was in Montreal. And Montreal was in a slump before it got there. Phoenix are just getting off the ground, literally, stadium-wise. And
rising.
Exactly. They're rising. Exactly. They're just rising right now. Thank you for the pun, Duane. But great performance as well by Alessandro Ricci in the last game. His first goal for Phoenix Rising. I think it's important to mention it. Two Montreal alumni burning USL right now. Masta Kasher in Colorado and Alessandro Ricci in Phoenix. But it was a great game, 4-3 for Phoenix. They took a big lead and then got the Soul Park came back, but they ended up winning the game for Phoenix. Impressive game. But yeah, let's put things to rest. Let's wish good luck to Frank Yallop. And let's not try to see more than what it is in that situation. I think it's just coincidence and coincidental, the timeline of the events of Drogba's arrival and Frank Yallop resignation.
Fair enough. Now, let's move to the Drogba situation a little bit as well. I mean, we're not going to connect it to Yallop, but certainly it was a bit surprising that we've heard this 3-year contract situation. But it sort of does speak to what we implied or suggested that when we first heard this news. There might be a little bit more than just you're going to play in USL for a year. That this might be something that's a little more related to everything that's going on.
He's going to play a few games here and there, maybe for the next 3 years, when is needed, when they need to a big media push, when they need help maybe on the pitch for some reason, if there's a championship game or low things, yeah. But it's going to be like looser, right? If you remember, well, I'll speak about my personal experience. Didier Drogba had difficulty adjusting to how Major League Soccer does things. The media, the practice schedule, the travel. It's going to be a little looser for him. Let's just say, being part of the ownership group of his own club, he will be able to dictate. One, probably he can take his own flight in first class or bring a few players with him, or those little petty details that are important for a Didier Drogba at this stage of his career, he will control. So he maybe does get what he needs, and Phoenix out of it for a USL club. They are more inclined to agree with his demands for a reason where they get more out of it than how many times did you hear Phoenix Rising FC over the last month compared to any other USL team, Duane? Just that explains why they get every penny's worth of signing Didier Drogba.
Yeah, does it help them with the MLS expansion bid? That's I guess the $1 million question here. Well, what are your thoughts there?
I think it really does, because not just for money wise, because if you're looking at the other investor in the investment group, they're high millionaires, if not billionaires, and have the pockets deep enough to take care of a Major League Soccer club. So that's not important. But the lack of experience in soccer managing and experience in the world of soccer and the name, that's what they don't have. Bringing Didier Drogba, you address those two issues. Bringing Didier Drogba, you address what's now popular in the world of sports and business, a celebrity owner that is your spokesperson in the same way, a Drew Carey in Seattle, a Will Ferrell in LA coming next year, those type of ownership, and the perception of those ownership group that brings fans to the stadium, not just for the team, not just for the players, but because they like the owner. It's meta. Yeah, it's a new way to do business, a new way to do sports. But I do feel that's what's going to happen in Phoenix. And that's one of the reasons why bringing a big name, because if you want this to really work, especially in a club that's not in a city, that is not known for its soccer popularity, the name has to be big. There's only Drogba's still right now top 5 name in the world of football. Like Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Drogba, Ibrahimovic. Maybe it's just me because of my age and those names were in their heyday 10 years ago, but it's a big name. So you do get that worth with a Drogba, even for an ownership group for MLS, because for the right reason you'd be talking about, for the right reason you have maybe more potential fans coming to the stadium, more potential sponsors because they know Drogba. They don't know, no offense, but they didn't know Omar Bravo maybe, but Drogba, they heard about Drogba, and they could get maybe that sponsorship deal done too. So I do think it's worth it to have it in an ownership group, a player / celebrity / mentor in the world of football as Didier Drogba.
No, you're not wrong in terms of the general population recognition of Drogba, and it speaks, I think, to when soccer started to first become popular and first started to sort of expand beyond the niche, right? Like that those are the guys that were at the top of the game when that happened. And you look at David Beckham, for instance, who is clearly probably the most famous soccer player in North America that will ever exist, because he came over here at the right time. He evolved at Manchester United when it was just the perfect sort of storm in terms of it becoming popular in North America. That sort of speaks to it. The early 2000s is when the sport started to first really break through to the mainstream, and Drogba was part of that, those great Chelsea teams. So exactly that's going to help them out there. No, I do think, and I believe that Phoenix is one of the cities, I should say, that I predicted that will win one of these expansion bids because it's a major market. They seem to have some momentum behind it. They've proven that they can sort of generate some stuff here, and I think Drogba is just a trump card that they've thrown out that might put them over the top.
And if you remember in the show we did a few months ago where we talked about every individual bids individually. Yeah, I know I just said the same word twice. But remember, Phoenix is the biggest market in those 12, which may be down to 11 right now. But Phoenix is the biggest city market, potential customer base of all those ones. So you bring in Drogba. Before it was a dark horse bid because we didn't know a lot about it, and it was all put together what seemed to be late with the development in the USL in the last few months. The bid has become quite substantial and not a dark horse anymore, but a contender.
Yeah, this is a city that has major sports across the board, right? So it is possibly the biggest center still remaining in North America that does not have a team, and I do believe that is probably why it is definitely in the running for one of those 4 spots. So let's take a break, Kevin. Though right now we're going to come back. We're going to review because we missed yesterday. We're going to do the Canadian review. We're going to talk a little bit about the FA Cup, and go from there.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
Duane, before we start the Canadian review, and let's start with Montreal for today, because I have a little treat for you. Very rarely do we have the opportunity to actually be that fly on the wall at halftime and understand what the manager, the coach, the gaffer is telling his players and how he does it. Impact Montreal Impact have made public today the halftime speech of Mauro Biello versus Philly. It was 3-1 at the halftime, and Montreal came back to tie the game 3-3 with 2 Jackson and Mel goal in second half. But let's listen to Mauro Biello at halftime.
3-1, 3. Let's go. I'm not talking about the first half. I'm going to talk to you about what we need to do to get back in this game. It's over the first half. Now, what are we going to do to get back in this game? What are we going to do? There's going to be a change. Baloo's coming into the game. Hernan is going to come out. We're going to play Nacho underneath, Baloo on the left. You think that team takes another goal? That team takes one more goal, and they're going to see what's going to happen. We got to fucking believe that we're going to get one more, and we're going to push to the third. You got to believe that we're going to get it. Keep going. Find Nacho. Find Baloo 1v1 versus guys. Get in the box, try to finish our action, and get back. Make sure, first 10 minutes, we're pressing the shit out of it to win the ball. I don't care. Press and then get off. We'll make the change. But fucking work your balls off. We come out of the game with your balls on the field because we gave it to them. Jason, give the...
Yeah, so first of all, the swear jar is pretty full for Mauro Biello, but that might explain the renovation at San Saputo that were financed by the swear jar. But Duane, when you hear Baloo's name right next to Nacho, I have to say, what I think of, first of all, yeah, it's great, the speech, but Baloo's second in the offensive depth chart for Montreal? Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, well, certainly he's going to create some opportunities, and I think that's what he was getting at there. They're going to press something out of him. I didn't quite catch that word.
Yeah, I believe that. I didn't quite catch that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and that was a pretty cool speech, and it's always fun to sort of get behind the sort of fly in the wall, as you said. 3-3 though against Philadelphia, and certainly the comeback. This is the question that I always ask when these things happen, and I mean they've happened with every team before, where you're down by multiple goals and you come back to get the result. Is that a win, even though it's a draw in your mind, Kevin?
Because of the way it happened, yes. If it would have happened with Montreal getting 3 goals first and then get scored on, it would have felt like a loss. How it happened, the how. Yes, it feels like a loss and a great performance, and it builds character, and it actually gives you a better taste in your mouth than a regular draw or a defeat would have said. But let's look at it in hindsight, or let's take the mentality we had before the game to explain the result, if it's satisfactory or not. Before the game, if you would have told me Montreal's going to draw against the worst team in the Eastern Conference, I would have said Montreal needs more. Montreal needs to rack up points, wins together to string them, and have the opportunity to get another win against Vancouver at home next Saturday. But no. So, yes, it's a disappointment there. The way it happened, though, be 3 goals down. Those 3 goals, by the way, the penalty, and some were kind of soft goals on both sides, to be quite honest. But it happens, right? Like Biello said at halftime, I'm not going to talk about the first half because it happened. We need to correct it. And that's what I think about this game is Montreal was able to react, but not react in a way that's predictable. And Mauro Biello went after the game by putting Bellew at halftime, by putting Jackson Amel earlier, by having Jackson Amel getting those opportunities, and Bellew Jackson really creating some chances, finishing goals, and bringing in an energy that's really needed. And we don't necessarily see it. I don't know if it's the old legs or the travel hard 2 weeks. I don't know. But Bellew and Jackson, when they come in, they do bring an energy that's definitely needed. And you did see Montreal react to the game the way it should have been. They answered the call. They went for it. They didn't just stick to the plan and do the normal changes at the 60th, 75, and 85th. No. So I do like that aspect of this game.
Yeah. Do you remember when Jackson Amel was cut 2 weeks ago? Do you recall that?
Well, it wasn't. It was misreported, and Patrick Fiala made his mea culpa of RDS, saying he had received bad information, and the club, following Jackson Amel's first goal 2 weeks ago, did speak to him just before the locker room opened, saying, "Look, dude, you are part of the plans." I'm obviously paraphrasing. But yeah, Jackson Amel is part of the plans, and well, he's playing himself into the lineup. Let's just put it this way: leading scorer for the Montreal Impact with Nacho Piatti, 3 goals in 35 minutes of play in 2 games for Jackson Amel. Swagger, you could tell that's one thing that Jackson Amel does have right now. It's confidence, and he has an aura about him. When I spoke to him last week, I did feel he's always reserved. He's a very reserved and not introverted, but with his friends, with his teammates, he's one way. And with the media and the public life as a soccer player, he's very professional, very reserved. But he is hard to get something out of him. But you can feel the difference in him last week. That I always said the same thing. He always said that he deserved to play. He always said that he was up for it. And he always said that he was better than people anticipated and thought. And now he's showing it.
Yeah, I kind of hope that you weren't paraphrasing there, that they actually did say, "Look, dude, you're part of the plan." That would be kind of fun.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, dude,
man,
where's my car?
Bro, you're part of the club. You're part of the team. You're here for the long run, bro.
There you go, dude. All right. Look, only 1 win on the season, though. Still, 7 points. That said,
at least they don't have that gap that Philly does, right? Philly at 3 points. They're closer to the teams ahead of them that are at 8 points, 9 points. See, we're 7 points. At least they got draws, close games. They lost by 2 goals against LA, 1 goal earlier this season, but a lot of draws and a lot of goals scored, at least lately. So you do have that aspect that's positive. But yeah, it's still just 7 points and 1 win.
Yeah, only 6 points out of second place, and I think anyone who looks at first place, which is Orlando right now with 15 points, the best.
That's not sustainable, though. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, they played 4 home games versus 2 away games. So you have to really consider that sort of stuff. I don't think Orlando is going to be at the top all year. Sorry, Orlando, but
they had a lot of time between games as well with the postponement of the game against New England. They had a whole other week to get ready yet. Of course, they traveled to New England and they did all that jazz, but you do have the preparation aspect for Orlando that has been on point this year. And the no Kaka, the Notarino rise, the Carol Aaron continuation, done the sophomore slump, now proving what he can do once again. So no, Orlando, it's like a perfect storm right now. And Will Johnson being Will Johnson, and those 2 goals last week were quite something to see. But no, yeah, exactly. But just to finish for Montreal and Philly in this little bridge version of the King Review, I do feel Philadelphia is terrible, though, Duane. And like Biello mentioned, they were in the ropes after the first goal late in the first half by Piatti. They just needed a reminder that they're not that great, and they had it with the second goal. And then they were just absorbing and ready to be punished and have that third. So Philly, it's going to be a tough one in Philly.
Yeah, well, we're talking about a team that hasn't won since August of last year. So, yeah, that it's kind of bleak down there. 3 points. They are by far the worst team in the league right now. No wins, the last winless team left in Major League Soccer. All right, let's talk a little bit about TFC and their 3-1 win against Schweinsteiger's Fire. There were a lot of Bayern Munich and Germany jerseys in the crowd that left sad, I guess. So that's okay, but.
Yeah, they left sad, but 3-1 does not necessarily indicate the way the game looked, especially late. But just what was with Javinko though? Getting subbed off late just to make sure he doesn't get injured, basically. And he's mad, goes straight to the tunnel.
Yeah, that's been the talk here for the since the game happened on Friday, obviously, because he threw a little tantrum is the only way to put it. And it wasn't a good look for him for sure. After the game, Greg Vanney said that the reason he did it was so that he could get the ovation, so that the crowd could thank him, could cheer him. Javinko, I think, because he's been frustrated by the way he started the season, was looking to get that hat trick. I think he wanted to be Player of the Week. You get Player of the Week multiple times, you're probably going to be MVP. I think that still really is driving him a lot this year. I was talking to some people that know him a little bit better than I do, which isn't saying much because I don't know him very well at all. But anyway, so people that know him a little bit is what I'm trying to say. That said, that's kind of just his personality, and that's when you get guys that are that level, they often have an ego, like they have a massive ego, and they don't like to be taken out, and that's just par for the course. But they're they live in the exact moment. They ultimately live in the moment, and what happens gets left behind almost instantly. And that's kind of what the narrative here is. Since Vanney's after that has said yesterday that I spoke to him, I said, I love your passion, but you can't do that in public. You can't create these distractions for us. And Javinko, at least according to Vanney, has said that he accepts that and he's moved on and that they're both okay right now.
Yeah.
It always is going to create sorry, Kevin, I'll let you jump in after this. It's always going to create the question that, with Vanney, because Vanney is still perceived by many as not being at the same level as a guy like Javinko. So it's always going to create that like, oh, what's this mean about the dynamic? And is that mean that Greg Vanney is in trouble? I don't think so. And I think he handled it fairly well. The only thing I would like to say, would have liked to hear Vanney say after the game is I would have liked to say, look, I'm the coach and I made a decision and my player needs to accept that. I would have liked to have him stand a little stronger on that. But by and large, I think he handled it pretty well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you have to remember it's a 3-1 victory for Toronto, 2 goals by Javinko. And I've talked about this yesterday in the MLS post-game show, but you weren't there because I was talking to myself. So Javinko's first goal, Duane, and how he did a dummy fake open up of the hips to make the goalkeeper think he was going far post. So the goalkeeper was caught flat-footed and he didn't have the power to jump to his right. And when he slotted near post, it was an easy goal. And if you look at it, it's so beautiful. You have to break down almost frame by frame on your television to see it. But he opens up his right hip like he's going far post, but he crosses back in a weird angle of a shot, but surprises the goalkeeper, and you have a goal. And we've seen Javinko do the far post a lot of times. So it's easy for the goalkeeper to just, as soon as he sees the hips open, he knows what's going to happen. It's Javinko's going to do what Javinko does, just like Piatti, far post, curl it around me. So I'm going to move. Oh, wait, he got me. He went near post.
Yeah, well, and his free kick goal was nice to see too, because he actually has struggled in the free kicks for the past year or so. But in that particular case, he hit it just perfectly in the angle in which I was standing. You could see it actually. Oh, that's going in. And there it went. So that was kind of nice to see. So a good game for Javinko, no doubt. If he gets rolling, TFC is going to be tough to beat. I know right now, 10 points. They are technically below the red line, but they're only 3 points out of second and only 5 points out of first. So I wouldn't worry too much about TFC just yet, guys. No one's really running ahead of this. No one's really taking the brass ring and running with it, so to speak. All right, we should talk about the Whitecaps in our last minute or so we have left. 2-1 loss to Portland. A lot of controversial refereeing decisions in that one.
Well, MLS is going to MLS and Pro are going to Pro.
What are you going to say about that? And look, the Whitecaps had that great game last week against Seattle. This was always sort of set up to be a letdown game, I think, and it was. And the 2-1 loss to Portland, who is, I said no one is really grabbing the brass ring. Maybe some Portland fans might argue against that with 16 points.
Portland, Orlando, Dallas are pretty much going after it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the point I'm making is if you look at this whole league, and Matt Doyle had a column where he said we don't know anything, was basically the paraphrasing that.
That's true, because results are not necessarily constant from week to week, and there is some outliers out there.
Yeah, and you look at these standings right now. You look at like Seattle, the defending MLS Cup champions, they have 9 points. Toronto, 10 points right now. So many draws and all that frustration. But MLS is about getting rolling later on, and I think that just no one in this league other than Philadelphia should be feeling that upset right now. There's everyone's still in this thing.
Poor Philly. Well, not poor Philly. They deserve it, but it's like the crowds. I was watching the game obviously live, and crowd, like as soon as the final whistle came, there was a shower of boos in Philly. It was like just terrible feeling. And it's anyways, we'll finish with the Whitecaps winning 2-1. The Whitecaps did have a lot of chances late in the game to actually tie it up. Bolaños, Montero, they have some great offensive threats though. And Davies has came back down a little bit, back to reality, and it was expected. And the highs of the Champions League are done, and he had his moment in the sun. Now it's time to work hard day in, day out, and get back to that level for an Alphonso Davies. But for Bolaños, for Montero, I do feel Vancouver is on the right path. I do like what I'm seeing. There's some unfortunate injuries, but for Vancouver, they had like chances. They could have tied it up and could have maybe even taken the lead, but just a foot off the post, just a little inches here and there made a difference. And Portland continued and got that win. But that Darlington Nagbe goal, the first one, a wonder goal, like nothing you could do about this. A shot from 25 yards out, that's harder than anything you'll face maybe in the entire year. David Ousted tried, but the way it comes at you and dips, and he jumped for his life, and I would have done the same.
Yeah. 0-3-0 on the road. That's an area that's going to have to improve for the Whitecaps. But nonetheless, still, as I said, they're 7 points. They're only 2 points out of a playoff spot. They're still in the mix, too. We all are. Colorado, LA, the struggles that they've had so far this year, they might be in that conversation with Philadelphia as well. But let's just bash the Union a little bit more because it's just way too easy to do that. We should talk briefly about the FA Cup semifinals that happened on the weekend.
Yeah, well, we can talk all about it. I don't mind at all. Quite happy about that game, actually. Well, the Saturday game.
Yeah, exactly. The Sunday game, there's a Manchester media outlet that had a headline that said, "Was that the worst substitution of all time?"
That's how do you even answer that?
It was a strange substitution. We'll say that. I don't know why you take Aguero. Because they have the derby on Thursday, and it's bizarre that it's on a Thursday, but nonetheless,
because they want to be top 4, and it's not necessarily guaranteed. The way it's all tight in the top 3 right now. One little gap, then it's really tight.
Yeah, look, the game was incredibly frustrating from a partisan perspective because first off, they actually won it because that goal should have counted. But we'll just leave that aside for a second, and maybe that is the argument for video reviews or not. But this is what I have with this, Kevin. Is if you're not 100% sure that the ball went out, why are you calling it out? Why are you affecting the game like that? That doesn't make any sense to me. The ball did not go out, but nonetheless, it was called out, and it remains a 1-1 draw.
Well, you have the influence of supporters, of fans, of other players, and that decision-making process, it's not as simple as is it out or not, right? At that moment, it's more than that. So, yeah.
I just feel that if you're going to make a call that affects the game so dramatically, you have to be 100% sure because they'd say that about a penalty, that you wouldn't want to go sort of feel it. Oh, that felt out, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But still, in the heat of the moment, it's easy to say, when in doubt, don't. But if they're 51% sometimes or 75% sure they're going to go for it, because majority of the time they will be right, but there will be time like Sunday.
I know. As a partisan,
I'm just trying to reassure you. I'm just trying to give you a hug through a microphone. I'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll be in the Champions League. Arsenal won't.
There you go. As a partisan, I just hope that there was at some point that that the referee's room was, quiet and someone looked at it and went, "You screwed that up, dude." But nonetheless, that's me as a person, not necessarily me as
dude. He missed it. He missed that one. I was like, yeah, I know. What can I do?
Exactly. I always wonder that whether referees at that level do look at the replays, because they probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night if they do, because it's obviously replays, and when you slow things down, it's easier to make the call, blah, blah, blah. But I often wonder whether they do. You'd have to. Human nature would say that you'd have to know whether you're right or wrong at the end of the day, and when you're wrong, you probably feel bad.
So is that why Petrescu haven't slept over the last 2-3 years?
Well, yeah, exactly. All right.
I could have said Toledo. I could have said Gantar. I could have said 20 other. No offense to Silvio Petrescu. Maybe Canada's best referee ever.
Pro is going to pro. All right, Kevin, quick last thought on this today. Is Chelsea going to win the double?
Well, when you look at that, their rivals, their opponents, in the last few matches in the Premier League, there's only one top 17. So I think they might have the Premier League figured out if they can just get the results they need. And then brings us to late May, around my birthday, FA Cup final. And, I have a feeling that it will be 2001, 2002 all over again. But this time, reversed. And Arsenal will not beat Chelsea. Chelsea will beat Arsenal.
All right. Well, we'll see, and we'll watch that. I'll probably get myself around to watching it. Going to watch the game on Thursday as well, and maybe we'll preview the game on Thursday on Wednesday. But nonetheless, on that note, I think for today, I'm just going to go be sad for a while now, because I've just been reminded that Manchester City is not going to win anything this year.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Until Duane feels better tomorrow, you can follow him on Twitter at 24th Minute and follow myself at Kev Laramee. You can find the on-demand version of every show we do at sportspodcastingnetwork.com and the Sports Podcasting Network feed on iTunes, Stitcher, Feedburner, Podbay Player, anywhere you get your podcast. You can find SPN. Until tomorrow, as always, have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.